It was a bright, sunny afternoon in a small, quiet neighborhood. You know the kind of place where kids ride bikes, dogs bark at the mailman, and everyone waves hello. It felt like nothing big ever happened here. People thought they knew everyone who lived on the street. But they were wrong about one person, Sarah Miller. Sarah was outside her little white house, watering her flowers. She held a green watering can, sprinkling water on her pretty yellow daisies. She looked like any mom you'd see around town. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, like she didn't care too much about fixing it. She wore an old t-shirt, some shorts, and a pair of beat-up sneakers. When she smiled, her face lit up, and her eyes sparkled like the sun on a puddle. If you walked by, you'd think, oh, she's just a nice lady who likes flowers. Nothing fancy, nothing strange. Just Sarah, doing her thing. But here's the fun part: Sarah wasn't what she looked like. Nope, not even close. Behind that big, friendly smile and those bright, happy eyes, she was hiding something huge. A secret so wild, it could turn this sleepy little town upside down. Nobody knew it yet, not the neighbors, not the kids playing outside, not even the nosy old man who watched everyone from his porch. Sarah's secret was like a big surprise party, waiting for the perfect moment to pop out and shock them all. Picture this: it's a normal day. Birds are chirping, the sun is shining, and Sarah's flowers are soaking up the water. She's humming a little song to herself, something soft and cheerful. Her hands move slow and steady, tipping the watering can just right. She looks so calm, like nothing in the world could bother her. The flowers bob their heads in the breeze, happy to get a drink. Everything seems so peaceful, so boring, so ordinary. But that's the trick. Sarah wanted it to look that way. She was good at pretending, better than anyone knew. Now, let's think about this neighborhood for a second. It's the kind of place where people leave their doors unlocked. Kids run around until the streetlights come on. Moms chat over coffee, and dads mow the grass on Saturdays. Everyone knows the rules: wave hello, keep your yard neat, and don't cause trouble. That's how it's always been. So when Sarah moved in a few months ago, nobody thought much of it. She showed up with a little moving truck, some boxes, and those flowers she planted right away. Oh, she's nice, they said. She's quiet, they said. She fits right in, they said. And Sarah just smiled and nodded, like she agreed. But here's where it gets exciting. Sarah didn't just move here to grow flowers or sip lemonade on her porch. She wasn't here to bake cookies or join the book club. No way. She had a reason, a big, secret reason. Something she kept locked up tight, like a treasure chest buried in the backyard. Every time she waved to a neighbor or said good morning, she was playing a game. A game where she pretended to be one thing, while really being something else. And nobody had a clue, not yet. Imagine you're walking down that street. You see Sarah out there with her watering can. She looks up, gives you a little wave, and says, "Nice day, huh?" You'd wave back and keep going, thinking she's just another friendly face. But what if I told you she's not? What if I said that behind those flowers and that smile, Sarah's got a story that could make your jaw drop? Something so crazy, it turned this quiet street into a circus. Let's slow down and picture her again. She's standing there, the sun making her hair glow a little. Her sneakers are dirty from digging in the dirt. Her t-shirt has a tiny hole near the bottom, like she's worn it a million times. The watering can drips a little, plop plop, onto the ground. She bends down to pull a weed, and her bun flops to one side. She's so normal, so plain, so safe. But that's the best part of her secret. She wanted everyone to think that. She wanted them to look at her and see nothing special. Because if they looked too close, they might start asking questions. And Sarah wasn't ready for questions, not yet. So, what do you think Sarah's hiding? I bet you're curious now. Is she a superhero? A spy? Maybe she's got $1 million stashed under her house? Whatever it is, it's big. Big enough to shake up this little town and make everyone say, "Wait, what?" She's like a puzzle with missing pieces, and we're just getting started putting it together. Think about your own neighborhood. Do you know everyone who lives there? Or could someone be hiding something cool, just like Sarah? Maybe the lady who walks her dog every day is secretly a famous singer. Or the guy who fixes cars is really a time traveler. With Sarah, it's the same idea. She blended in so well, nobody wondered about her. They saw the flowers, the smile, the sneakers, and thought, that's it? But there was so much more. The afternoon stayed sunny and warm. Kids rode by on scooters, laughing and yelling. A dog barked at a squirrel. The mailman waved as he dropped letters in boxes. And Sarah kept watering, moving from the daisies to the roses. She didn't rush. She didn't look nervous. She was cool as a cucumber, even though her secret was bubbling inside her like a soda about to fizz over. Every splash of water, every little hum, was part of her act. She was waiting for the right moment to let it all out. Here's a little hint, Sarah's secret wasn't just about her. It was about something bigger, something that could change everything for the people around her. She wasn't here by accident. She picked this town, this house, this street for a reason. And soon, everyone would find out why. But not yet. For now, she was just Sarah, the flower lady. The nice mom with the messy bun. The quiet neighbor who didn't make a fuss. So, what's your guess? What's Sarah up to? Drop it in the comments below, and tell me where you're watching from today. I bet you've got some wild ideas already. This is just the start, and trust me, it's going to get even better. Sarah's got a surprise up her sleeve, and when it comes out, you won't believe your eyes. The sun was still shining bright over the little neighborhood, but trouble was brewing. It all started when the HOA showed up. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, fancy words for a group of people who think they're the bosses of the street. They make rules about everything, like how short your grass should be or what color your mailbox can be. And in this town, the HOA was run by a guy named Tom Bradley. Tom wasn't a quiet guy. Oh no, he was loud, really loud. His voice boomed like a big drum, and he loved to boss people around. He wasn't even a real cop, but he had a shiny badge he got from the internet. It wasn't real, just a toy, but he wore it pinned to his shirt like it meant something. He called himself the neighborhood watch captain. Sounds cool, right? But all it really meant was that he liked telling everyone what to do. If your dog barked too much or your trash can stayed out too long, Tom was there, yelling about rules. That afternoon, Tom decided it was Sarah's turn to get in trouble. He marched right up to her yard, his fake badge glinting in the sun. Two of his buddies trailed behind him, nodding like they were part of some big, important team. They weren't. They were just guys who liked following Tom around, acting tough. Sarah was still watering her flowers, her daisies swaying in the breeze. She didn't even look up when Tom stopped in front of her. She just kept pouring water, nice and calm. Tom pointed at her flowers like they'd done something terrible. Hey, you, he shouted, his voice loud enough to scare the birds away. Those daisies are 2 inches too tall. He puffed out his chest, trying to look big and scary. You're breaking the rules, lady. We've got laws around here. His buddies nodded, crossing their arms like they agreed. To them, those flowers were a crime scene, and Sarah was the bad guy. Sarah didn't say a word at first. She just kept watering, tipping her green can slow and steady. Then she looked up and gave Tom a little smile. Not a big grin, just a tiny one, like she thought he was funny. That smile made Tom mad, really mad. His face turned red, like a tomato about to burst. He wasn't used to people ignoring him. Most folks in the neighborhood would say, "Sorry, Tom," and fix whatever he complained about. But not Sarah. She didn't jump or frown or argue. She just smiled and went back to her flowers. You think you're special? Tom snapped, stepping closer. You think you're above us? We'll see about that. His voice got louder with every word, and his buddies smirked like they were in on a big plan. Tom didn't like that Sarah wasn't scared. He didn't like that she didn't bow down to his fake badge and loud voice. To him, she was a problem he was going to fix. But here's the thing Tom didn't know, picking a fight with Sarah was the worst mistake he'd ever make. He thought she was just some quiet lady with flowers. He thought she was easy to boss around, like everyone else on the street. But Sarah wasn't like everyone else. She wasn't scared of Tom or his silly badge. She had something up her sleeve, something big, and Tom was about to step right into her trap. Let's picture it. Tom standing there, his boots planted in Sarah's grass. His face is red, his hands are on his hips, and his badge is shining like he's a hero. His buddies are behind him, trying to look tough, but they're just copying him. Across from them is Sarah, small and calm, with her messy bun and old sneakers. She's holding that watering can like it's no big deal, water dripping onto her daisies. The air feels heavy, like something's about to happen. The neighbors are starting to peek out their windows, wondering what's going on. "You've got one day to fix those flowers," Tom yelled, pointing a finger at her. "Or you'll be sorry." He turned to his buddies and nodded, like he'd just won a big battle. They grunted and followed him as he stomped off, muttering about rules and respect. Sarah watched them go, still smiling that little smile. She didn't say anything back. She didn't need to. She just kept watering, like Tom was a noisy fly she could ignore. But inside, Sarah wasn't ignoring him. She heard every word. She saw every glare. And she was ready. Tom thought he was the king of the street, but he didn't know who he was messing with. That fake badge and loud voice might scare some people, but not Sarah. She had a plan, a secret plan, and Tom was walking right into it without a clue. Think about it. Tom's the kind of guy who likes being in charge. He walks around with his chest puffed out, barking orders, thinking everyone has to listen. He's got his little team, his made-up title, and his silly badge. To him, Sarah was just another person to push around. He didn't see her quiet smile as a warning. He didn't think her calm face meant anything. He figured she'd give in, like the others. But Sarah wasn't giving in. She was waiting. The neighborhood stayed quiet after Tom left. The birds came back, chirping like nothing happened. Kids rode their bikes again, laughing down the street. Sarah finished watering and set her can down by the porch. She wiped her hands on her shorts and looked at her daisies. They were pretty, even if Tom didn't think so. She didn't care about his rules. She wasn't here to follow them. She was here for something else, something Tom would never guess. Tension was building, even if nobody saw it yet. Tom thought he'd won that round. He thought Sarah was scared, or at least annoyed. But she wasn't. She was like a cat watching a mouse, letting it run around before pouncing. Every shout from Tom, every mean word, was just another step closer to her big moment. He didn't know it, but he just started a fight he couldn't win. So there they were, Tom, the loud guy with the fake badge, and Sarah, the quiet lady with the secret. Two people on the same street, but miles apart. Tom thought he was the boss, but Sarah was the one in control. He'd find that out soon enough. For now, though, the day went on. The sun kept shining, the flowers kept growing, and Sarah kept pretending. But the storm was coming and Tom was going to get soaked. The next few days in the neighborhood got wild. Tom Bradley, the loud guy with the fake badge, wasn't done with Sarah. Nope, he turned into a real bully, the kind who picks on someone just because he can. He didn't like that Sarah smiled at him instead of getting scared. It made him mad, super mad. So, he decided to make her life tough. He wasn't going to let her get away with those two tall daisies or that calm little smile. First, Tom started writing fake tickets. You know, like the ones you get for parking your bike in the wrong spot. Except these were silly. He scribbled stuff like flowers too tall and breaking HOA rules on pieces of paper. Then he'd march up to Sarah's house, his boots stomping loud on the ground, and slap those tickets on her door with tape. He'd stick them there and grin, like he was some big shot. That'll teach her, he'd say to his buddies, who nodded like it was the best idea ever. The neighbors saw it happen, peeking from their windows, but nobody said a word. They were used to Tom being bossy. Sarah didn't care about the tickets. She'd come out in the morning, see them flapping on her door, and just pull them off. She didn't frown or get upset. She'd crumple them up, toss them in the trash, and go water her flowers like nothing happened. That made Tom even madder. He wanted her to fight back or say sorry, but she didn't. She just kept being Sarah, quiet, calm, and smiling. It was like she was playing a game, and Tom didn't know the rules. Then Tom took it up a notch. He didn't just want tickets anymore, he wanted to scare her big time. So, one day, he called his cousin, Jimmy. Jimmy wasn't a real cop either, but he had an old police costume from a Halloween party. It had a blue shirt, a hat, and even some shiny handcuffs that jingled when he walked. Tom told Jimmy, "Dress up and come help me. We're gonna arrest Sarah." Jimmy thought it sounded fun, so he put on the costume and showed up at Tom's house, ready to play pretend. The next morning, it happened. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky pink and orange. Sarah was on her porch, sipping a cup of tea, when Tom and Jimmy marched over. Jimmy's handcuffs clinked with every step, and Tom was grinning like he'd won a prize already. A few neighbors were outside, some getting their newspapers, some walking their dogs, and they stopped to watch. Tom puffed out his chest and shouted, "Sarah Miller, you're under arrest for HOA violations." His voice boomed across the street, loud enough to wake up anyone still sleeping. Jimmy grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her off the porch. She didn't fight or yell. She didn't even spill her tea. She just stood up, calm as ever, and let them tug her along. Tom's grin got bigger as Jimmy snapped the handcuffs on her wrists. "That's what you get for breaking the rules," Tom said, pointing at her like she was a bad kid caught stealing cookies. They dragged her across the yard, right in front of everyone, and shoved her toward an old, beat-up van parked on the street. It wasn't a police car, just Tom's rusty van with a dent in the side, but they acted like it was official. The neighbors gasped and whispered. "What's going on?" one lady asked. "Did Sarah do something bad?" a kid wondered. They couldn't believe it. Quiet Sarah, in handcuffs. Tom loved it. He turned to the crowd and waved his arms. "See? Nobody's above the rules here," he yelled, acting like a king. Jimmy nodded, tipping his fake police hat like he was in a movie. But here's the cool part, Sarah wasn't scared. Not even a little. While Tom laughed and Jimmy pushed her into the van, she looked at them with that same calm smile. It wasn't a big smile, just a tiny one, like she knew a secret they didn't. Her eyes sparkled, and she stood tall, even with her hands cuffed. As they shut the van door, she leaned close to Tom and whispered, "You're going to regret this." Her voice was soft, almost sweet, but it had a little edge like a warning. Tom heard her, and for a second, he stopped laughing. His grin slipped, just a tiny bit. He looked at her, and there was a flicker in his eyes, doubt. What did she mean? Why wasn't she crying or begging? Most people would be upset, but Sarah acted like this was all part of a plan. Tom shook his head and forced a laugh. "Yeah, right," he said, slamming the door shut. "You're the one in trouble, lady." Jimmy chuckled too, but it sounded nervous. They climbed into the front of the van and drove off, leaving dust and whispers behind. Inside the van, Sarah sat quietly. The handcuffs were cold on her wrists, but she didn't wiggle or complain. She just stared out the dirty window, watching the houses roll by. She wasn't worried. She wasn't mad. She was waiting for something big. Tom thought he'd won, but he didn't know he just poked a sleeping bear. Sarah's secret was starting to wake up, and soon, it'd come roaring out. Back on the street, the neighbors kept talking. "Tom's gone too far," one man said, shaking his head. "She's just a nice lady with flowers," a girl added, holding her dog's leash. They didn't understand why Tom was so mean to Sarah. But they also didn't know the truth. Sarah wasn't just a nice lady. She was something more, something Tom couldn't even dream of. Every fake ticket, every loud shout, every step he took was pulling him closer to a big surprise. Tom didn't see it yet. He was too busy feeling proud. He thought dragging Sarah off in handcuffs made him the boss. He thought she'd give up and follow his rules now. But that little whisper, "You're going to regret this," stuck in his head. He tried to laugh it off, but it wouldn't go away. What was she up to? Why was she so calm? For the first time, Tom wondered if he'd messed with the wrong person. Not that he'd admit it, not yet. The day went on, and the neighborhood buzzed with chatter. Kids ran around telling the story, "Tom arrested Sarah." Moms gossiped over fences, "Can you believe it?" Everyone thought this was the end of it. But it wasn't. It was just the start. Sarah's calm smile and quiet words were clues, small hints of what was coming. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't weak. She was ready. And Tom? He was about to find out what happens when you push someone who's been holding back. Less than an hour after Tom and his cousin Jimmy dragged Sarah into that beat-up van, something crazy happened. The quiet little street turned into a scene straight out of an action movie, the kind with fast cars, tough heroes, and big surprises. It all started when 3 black SUVs came zooming around the corner. Their tires squealed loud, like a scream, and smoke puffed up from the road. The cars stopped hard, right in front of Tom's van, and doors flew open fast. Out jumped a team of people, serious people. They wore dark suits, all black, like shadows come to life. They had little earpieces in their ears, buzzing with voices, and they held guns, ready to move. A woman stepped forward, tall and strong, her hair pulled back tight. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. She just shouted, "CIA! Drop your weapons and step away." Her voice was sharp, like a knife cutting through the air. It wasn't a question, it was an order, and it made everyone freeze. Tom's fake badge slipped from his shaky fingers and clattered to the ground. His mouth fell open, like a fish gasping for water. His eyes went wide, and his red face turned white, super white. Jimmy, still in his silly cop costume, dropped the handcuff keys and stumbled back, tripping over his own feet. Their tough guy act was gone in a flash. They didn't know what to do. CIA? The real CIA? Here. On their little street? It didn't make sense. Then the van door creaked open, and out stepped Sarah. Yep, Sarah, the flower watering, quiet lady they just arrested. She didn't look scared or mad. She brushed off her sleeves, like she'd just spilled some crumbs, not been shoved into a van. Her messy bun was still messy, her sneakers still dirty, but something was different. Her smile was gone. Instead, she had a look on her face that could stop a storm, a look so cold and strong, it could freeze fire. She stood tall, her shoulders back, and stared right at Tom. Tom blinked, confused. Jimmy gulped, nervous. The neighbors, hiding behind their curtains, peeked out with big eyes. What was happening? Sarah took a step forward, her sneakers quiet on the pavement. She locked eyes with Tom and spoke, her voice steady and clear. "I'm Agent Sarah Miller, Central Intelligence Agency. You just kidnapped a federal officer." Every word hit like a hammer. The air went still. Even the birds stopped chirping. Tom's jaw dropped lower, if that was even possible. What?" he stammered, his loud voice now a tiny squeak. "CIA? Federal officer? No, no, this is a mistake." He waved his hands, like he could make it all go away. Jimmy nodded fast, his fake hat sliding off. "We didn't know," he whined, holding up his hands. But it was too late, way too late. The CIA team didn't care about excuses. They moved in, fast and smooth, like they'd done this 100 times. Sarah crossed her arms and watched as the suited people surrounded Tom and Jimmy. One agent picked up Tom's fake badge from the ground and held it up, shaking his head. Another pulled out real handcuffs, not the toy ones Jimmy had, and snapped them on Tom's wrists. Click, click. Then they got Jimmy too. The bullies who'd been so loud and proud were now quiet, their heads down, their faces pale. They looked like kids caught sneaking candy, but this was way bigger. The neighbors couldn't believe their eyes. They pressed their noses to the windows, whispering to each other. "Sarah, CIA," one lady gasped, her coffee cup shaking in her hand. "I thought she was just growing flowers," a man said, scratching his head. Kids ran to the windows too, pointing and giggling. "Cool," one yelled. The street wasn't quiet anymore, it buzzed with shock and excitement. Sarah didn't say much more. She didn't need to. Her team was in charge now. The woman with the sharp voice barked orders, and the agents moved like a well-oiled machine. They opened the van door wider, checked inside, and started talking into their earpieces. "Suspect detained," one said. "Scene secure," said another. It was all so fast, so real, not like Tom's pretend game. This was the real deal, and Tom had no idea what he'd stepped into. Let's picture it: the black SUVs shine in the sun, big and tough. The agents stand tall, their suits crisp, their faces serious. Tom and Jimmy slump by the van, hands cuffed, looking small and scared. And there's Sarah, right in the middle, calm and strong. Her old t-shirt and sneakers don't match the power she's showing now, but that's what makes it so awesome. She's been hiding this the whole time, hiding it behind her flowers, her smile, her quiet ways. Tom tried to talk again. "We were just enforcing rules," he mumbled, his voice shaking. "HOA rules. She broke them." He pointed at Sarah, like that would help. But Sarah didn't flinch. She raised an eyebrow, just a little, and the sharp-voiced woman stepped in. "You kidnapped a federal agent," she said, her words like ice. That's not a rule, that's a crime. Tom shut his mouth fast. There was no arguing with that. The truth hit hard, Sarah wasn't just a neighbor. She was Agent Sarah Miller, a secret agent working for the CIA. She'd been living here, pretending to be normal, for a reason, a big reason. Maybe she was watching someone. Maybe she was on a mission. Whatever it was, Tom had messed it up by picking on her. His fake tickets, his loud yells, his pretend arrest, they'd all led to this. He thought he was the boss, but Sarah was the real power. The agents started moving Tom and Jimmy toward one of the SUVs. Tom's boots dragged on the ground, and Jimmy's hat fell off completely, rolling away. They weren't grinning anymore. They weren't shouting. They were caught, and they knew it. Sarah watched them go, her face still cold and steady. She didn't laugh or cheer. She didn't need to. She'd won without even raising her voice. The neighbors kept staring, their curtains pulled wide now. "I can't believe it," an old man muttered. "She's a spy," a girl squealed, jumping up and down. The street felt like a movie set, alive with noise and wonder. Those black SUVs, those serious agents, that big reveal, it was the wildest thing this town had ever seen. And it all came from Sarah, the lady they thought was just nice. This was the moment everything flipped. Tom thought he'd teach Sarah a lesson, but she taught him one instead. His fake badge was gone, his bully days were over, and Sarah's secret was out. She wasn't just a flower-watering mom. She was a hero, a fighter, a secret agent. And Tom? He was just a loud guy who picked the wrong person to mess with. The CIA team moved fast. They didn't play games or wait around. After Sarah told everyone who she really was, Agent Sarah Miller, they got to work. They grabbed Tom and his buddies, Jimmy and the other guy, and put real handcuffs on them. Click, 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 the sound echoed down the street. Tom's face was white, and he didn't say a word. Jimmy looked like he might cry. Their tough guy act was over, and they knew it. The agents didn't stop there. They pushed Tom and his crew into the back of those big black SUVs. The doors slammed shut, loud and final. Then the engines roared, and the cars sped off, tires kicking up dust. The neighborhood watched, buzzing with whispers. "They're gone," a kid shouted. "Tom's in big trouble now," a lady said, holding her coffee cup tight. Everyone couldn't believe what just happened. Here's the cool part, Sarah wasn't just a regular lady living there. She'd been undercover like a secret spy. She was pretending to be normal, watering her flowers and smiling at everyone, but really, she was watching some sneaky, shady stuff. Tom didn't even know about it. He thought he was the boss with his fake badge and silly rules, but Sarah was the real deal. She was tracking something big, and Tom messed it all up by picking on her. The HOA the group Tom ran was finished. Done. Over. Nobody wanted to listen to them anymore after this. Tom's fake tickets and loud yelling didn't matter now. The neighbors saw the truth, Sarah was a hero, and Tom was just a bully who got caught. The street felt different, like a weight was gone. No more HOA bossing people around. It was free again, thanks to Sarah. The next day, everything seemed normal, but not really. Sarah was back outside, watering her daisies like always. Her green watering can dripped, and her sneakers got muddy, just like before. But now, when people walked by, they didn't just nod or look away. They waved big waves and smiled huge smiles. "Hi, Sarah," a kid yelled, riding his bike. "You're awesome," a lady called from her porch. Sarah waved back, her little smile returning. She didn't say much, but she didn't need to. Everyone knew she was special now. Tom. He wasn't coming back anytime soon. He was facing jail time, real jail, not his pretend games. His fake badge couldn't help him now. It was just a toy, and the real police didn't care about it. He'd broken big rules by arresting Sarah, and the law wasn't happy. Jimmy and the other buddy were in trouble too. They'd picked the wrong side, and now they had to pay for it. The neighborhood buzzed with stories. "Sarah's a spy," kids giggled, playing pretend with sticks as guns. "Tom's gone for good," moms said, happy to be free of his noise. Sarah stayed quiet, doing her thing, but she'd changed everything. Justice was served big time, and Tom learned his lesson the hard way. "Okay, let's talk about what happened." This story with Sarah and Tom teaches us something big, something super cool. Sometimes, the person you think is weak or easy to boss around is actually the strongest one of all. Think about it. Tom thought he could push Sarah around because she was quiet and nice. He thought his loud voice and fake badge made him the king. But guess what? He was so wrong. Sarah had all the power, and she didn't even need to yell to show it. Tom learned that the hard way, didn't he? Sarah was amazing. She didn't shout or fight back when Tom was mean. She didn't cry or get mad when he stuck those silly tickets on her door. She just stayed calm, like a superhero waiting for the perfect moment. And when that moment came, bam, she showed everyone who she really was. She didn't need to be loud to win. She just needed to be smart and strong inside. That's so cool, right? It's like she had a secret weapon all along, and Tom never saw it coming. Here's something to think about: next time you see someone who's quiet, don't just skip past them. Maybe they're like Sarah. Maybe they've got something awesome hiding inside them, a big surprise you'd never guess. The kid who sits alone at lunch? The neighbor who doesn't talk much? They might be super strong or super smart, just waiting for their chance to shine. You never know who's got power until they show it. Tom judged Sarah by how she looked: quiet, normal, no big deal. But looks can trick you, and boy, did they trick him. This story makes you wonder about bullies too. Tom thought being loud and mean made him better, but it just got him in trouble. Bullies don't always win, even if they think they will. Sarah proved that. She stayed cool and let Tom dig his own hole. Then, when the time was right, she stepped up and boom, justice. It's like a reminder: being kind and strong beats being loud and mean any day. So, what's the big lesson? You don't have to scream or fight to be powerful. You can be quiet and still change everything, just like Sarah did. And if someone tries to push you around, maybe they're the ones who'll end up surprised. It's all about what's inside you, not how loud you are outside. That's pretty inspiring, huh? It makes you feel like you could be a hero too, even if you're not the loudest kid in the room. What did you think of Sarah's big moment? Did you cheer when she showed Tom who's boss? Drop it in the comments below, I want to hear. And tell me if you've ever seen a bully get what they deserve. Maybe you've got a story like this too. Oh, and say hi from wherever you're watching. I bet you're awesome, just like Sarah.